Every era has its defining transformation. Ours is the rise of intelligence, where data connects the world, and AI reshapes every decision we make. But as machines grow smarter, it's our humanity that must grow stronger, because technology doesn't define progress, leadership does.
WILDA is the world's premier forum for leadership in AI, bringing together global executives and industry pioneers to shape a fair digital world. WILDA brings together the world's most forward-thinking leaders to share ideas, challenge boundaries, and turn possibility into progress. We build communities that empower.
Every era has its defining transformation. Ours is the rise of intelligence, where data connects the world, and AI reshapes every decision we make. But as machines grow smarter, it's our humanity that must grow stronger, because technology doesn't define progress, leadership does.
WILDA is the world's premier forum for leadership in AI, bringing together global executives and industry pioneers to shape a fair digital world through collaboration, knowledge exchange, and thought leadership in data, digital, and AI. We believe the future of AI must be guided by empathy, ethics, and inclusion, where every algorithm reflects fairness and every leader drives impact with integrity. From New York to Singapore, from boardrooms to innovation labs, WILDA brings together the world's most forward-thinking leaders to share ideas, challenge boundaries, and turn possibility into progress. We build communities that empower. We create conversations that spark action. We lead with conscience, collaboration, and courage. The future isn't written by algorithms. It is shaped by people who choose to lead differently. People who combine intelligence with compassion, innovation with integrity, and data with purpose. We are the world leaders in data and AI. Together, we are designing a world that is intelligent, inclusive, and deeply human.
Watching the AI talk show from world leaders in data and AI, where leaders grow, transform, and lead. And this is all about peer-to-peer, learning from each other. I'm Asha Saxena. This is where AI gets real. Every episode, one guest, one honest conversation about what's working, what's not working, what's coming next. So welcome. Most executives who say they're transformed the companies They buy the licenses, they buy the tools, maybe they rename the department. But today's guest has spent 34 years actually rebuilding from inside, first in steel, now in algorithm. And he holds a title that doesn't exist everywhere. Uh, Most organization either has a chief marketing officer or a chief technology officer. But we have David Reid, who's a chief marketing and technology officer. David, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Your career is very intriguing. You started your career as an architect in Aberdeen. You've spent 34 years since then redesigning something else entirely, drilling
Yeah.
rigs, and now
Mhm.
marketing and technology.
Mm.
How does an architect from Scotland end up running both functions at at the one place in one of the largest oil field equipment company? How did all that happen?
It was a master plan. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It just happened. It's interesting. I actually teach leadership off of what I learned in architecture. It's an interesting profession for balance and thinking, and so because I work just with engineers, it's been really helpful to have that background. Actually, within my first year in the company, I was really surprised to watch, how much of what I had learned actually fit. But I think it's the psychology side that is useful in architecture. It's been really helpful for thinking differently and being different and having a healthy view of self, which is very necessary. So yeah, it's weird. It's a weird combo. I really wasn't aiming at it at all. I always loved the technology side. And I've grown to love leadership. That was something that didn't come naturally at first, but realized that was what I really wanted to do, was to help see things change. And if you want things to change, you have to focus on people.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, I was amazed when I saw the title Chief Marketing Officer and the Chief Technology
Yeah,
Officer. Do you see yourself more as a marketing officer, or do you see yourself more as a technology officer? And how does it come together?
it fits together to me. It describes me more holistically,
Mm,
because the parts of who we are and where we're going fit into both in different ways, and so having a perspective of the future and then pulling that back to how we communicate now is quite a good fit for me, actually. So it's I know compared to other CMOs, I'm different. Like when I speak to them, and I find I don't hang out with them as easily. So I do hang out with the technology guys easily. So maybe that tells you something. But I think in that world, people don't really understand marketing very well. So they hire people into those roles. They don't last very long. So most CMOs last 2, 3 years.
right.
I'm over a decade, I think now. But yeah, it's a bit different. It's a bit different how I do it. I grew inside the business, which made it very easy. I was very involved in technology development and strategy, and so all these things are very much strategic arms. I think if I believed there was a term called a chief strategy officer, I would say that was what I was,
Yeah,
but I don't. That belongs to the CEO.
yeah.
If you did have one, you should just give them the job. Um, so yeah, but it's just an interesting combination for me. I think both hats work really well. My boss, when I got two, said, if you ever feel like it's too much, we can take one. And I'm like, no, I spent time building the marketing organization the way I wanted it, and so I was very happy with that. And so it's not hard for me. I think it would be hard for most people, but it's pretty much how I work and think.
They talk about AI impacting the organization, like align
Mm.
your technology, your AI with strategy. And of course, as you said, strategy is the right match because you're really truly building the strategy for the organization.
Mm.
But talk to me about how you think about technology uh, holistically for the entire organization, and how does your leadership see technology? Because I agree with you, marketing is heavy user of technology because they're
Mm.
using AI and it's changing the whole world for marketing, right?
That's right. It changes everything, but I think marketing does get impacted. Everything gets impacted. Interestingly, my data scientists are on the same floor as my marketers. They sit next to each other. They aren't the same types of people,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of interconnectivity between it. We've tended to make our own things, but our digital work for me really started in the year 2000 when everyone was panicking over Y2K. And there was people literally in our business saying we need to get back off of this computing thing because it's too dangerous, which I felt the complete opposite. But it was good for me because I was already seeing that everything needs to be connected. The architectural view, you just look at things and go, these
Right.
things are interdependent. We need to create more interdependency and value from systems. So because I was on the physical mechanical side of design, I was involved in designing most of the world's offshore drilling rigs. We were buying companies of the complex parts of those rigs because they were the value parts. Ultimately, we had all the less complex, less value parts when we were delivering because we were creating very large, complex systems on time, on budget, which nobody else was doing, which gave us a very dominant place because everyone wanted that. Everyone wanted the low risk, on time, on budget game. But what we did was standardize, which was very against my general creative side, let's say. Like I was in the late 90s, I was very much customizing everything and having fun with it. Then I had to standardize because past Y2K, I realized we're going to need stability. We're going to need consistency because the amount of work it takes to write code, standardization was really important. And so we started to build that way. Stopped asking people what they wanted, which was what was killing us, was engineers wanting what they wanted.
Yeah.
And what they wanted was on time, on budget and working. And so we really managed to get that going. And that has made our ability to automate and then jump in with AI extremely easy compared to someone else because they have to engineer the whole solution. So that was a good journey for us. And then we went really into AI. I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, we started to look at predictive work in ML. As we kind of moved along that where's the value? It's not really what's cool, it's more where's the value. And so we were very good at targeting small items in a system, but then if they go down, massive savings. And so I won't go into the details, but it was really how we did it. And then we backed off into the rest of the systems. Also, I would take technology and work in the simplest, lowest cost part of the business, which everyone thought was terrible because they all thought the high end is where the development should be. But we would take it like into the US shale, and we built these automated systems. So when we went to the high end of the market, like say Norway offshore, they'd be like, no, we're too complex for your simple system. And the system had been designed for complexity, but it was just used in a simple application. And the reason for that is cost. We really needed to get a different way of thinking. Had we built into a very high-end market, we would have made an expensive product. It's just how it works. And so that whole thinking, I love creative destruction fundamentally. So when you're a large company, you have to think about that, like what's coming that could destroy us, and can we destroy ourselves before someone else destroys us? And so that's very much in the thinking. So even when you start building integrated packages, you immediately think, what comes after that is broken up systems that can work inside of that ecosystem. So you have to think ahead of the game. Even our automation work was done when we were too busy to do automation work. So was everyone else. So I did it outside the company. We worked with other people, and we managed to build a platform so that once we hit a downturn, we were ready with something to work on. So it's always trying to think ahead of the curve. So in an AI world now we have generative. It's the end of the software business. So that's what's coming our way. So you've got to think, okay, so how do we take advantage of that? How do we move quickly into that space and don't be dreaming? I think most people in software are actually ramping their prices up, creating the end of their era. Which is often what happens, with society and everything else, is people get greedy and then feel the panic, and they create the destruction of themselves by value generation. They're desperately clamoring to a business model that should collapse.
That's so true. I mean, I give the example of Netflix always is like how they came in. Blockbuster had a chance to reinvent, but they were too slow to reinvent. I think legacy businesses who become too comfortable,
they do.
They hurt themselves.
I made this story up. It's not, I didn't make it all up, but I'm going to tell you a story about my grandfather who was, he was a 6'3" coal miner in a coal mining family of 14, mostly boys. And he chose to be a coach maker, which would be for horses, right? And in Newcastle in England. And so I don't know these details. I just made it up to tell the story. But here he is looking at job prospects. He's 6'3". He doesn't want to go down a mine. So he thinks here's a good profession. There's cars around, but you know they're expensive. There's no infrastructure. They have all the things people thought that within 3 years, coachmaking wasn't a job anymore. Or at least it wasn't a good job. So I think it's the same. I think we all look at things and make our excuses as to why it wouldn't happen. I see it with AI. People love to talk about what's wrong with AI, but it's a child, but it's also a very rapid growing child, you know. So I think we just have to keep looking at how do we adopt, how do we get it on board, how do we get people engaged
Right.
as quickly as possible. So that was kind of our logic. As soon as generative came, we put it in the hands of everyone in the company and started training.
So what was your biggest success in last 3 years since Gen AI came and now we are moving so fast into agentic? What has been your success and what has been your challenge in last 3 years?
Well, the success came, I wouldn't call it my success, which, you know, is just my team happened to do this. I wouldn't say I was telling them to do it. I just observed as it was happening.
Yeah.
But once they got out of coding, doing all the code themselves, or even being in a code that they would even understand, they were operating in codes they weren't trained in. There came an opportunity there to go faster and to do more with less. And so, you know, the group that I have is about 5 PhDs. Now they're outplaying, you know, groups of 100 right now with the software they're developing and the work they're doing. And that's the power of AI is they keep getting more and more scope and multiplying. Yet there's people who have the 100 people who are used to thinking that way, and they're continuing to employ them. And it's not working. You know, they're not managing. We had a customer tell us the other day, you're the first ones to deliver value. That you know, everyone talks about value, which is a big part of the software world, is hyping and selling and using very smart people to get people to pay lots of money. But at the end of the day, delivery is everything, and people are under delivering a value all the time right now. And so that was the big breakthrough. Was we were really happy to see that, and that growth is causing not us to say how do we get now 100 people to do the work. It's just that we've learned how do you manage AI appropriately so that it's safe and so that it can be used in these applications. So that's a big plus. I think what's been challenging is getting. I think the thing that everyone says when you say you're going to get everyone on, you know, you're going to train them in using some kind of generative system. They always complain that that's not a structured way of doing things, right? So it's very messy.
Right.
So that is true. It is messy, and adoption is high. We're seeing a lot of people not. I mean, we don't see a reduction in the people it takes to get the work done. So that's interesting. Other than my group, you know, where we're seeing multiplication, we're seeing people being more efficient and saying they're producing more, but actually highlighting where the value is. They are doing more. It seems like as we go faster, all you're doing is standing still. It feels like that. All you're doing is catching up with where everyone's at. So it doesn't feel like it's a big breakthrough.
Yeah.
So there's some places it is, like I said, in that business with the production software. But in some it's not. Some it's not moving, you know, as fast. And then of course we started doing bots, for asking questions about technology, and of course that didn't go well. You know, the amount you need to train AI to get right answers and to not fail is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so the assumption that you would just throw all this data and it will be okay, it's not going to be okay. You do have to train it. You do have to sit on top of it, and that will pass very quickly. But that work is needed, and it's quite a load. And then you have to go, well, hold on, how much value am I getting from this? Back to when we really started doing it with machine learning. You know, have to go, what's really valuable right now? Let's do that. Let's do what's valuable. And the general everyone do it doesn't work the same. It does prove to be more efficient, but it doesn't show in the numbers. And so the question is, where's the real money? Like where do we see the bottom line changing? That is causing. I think I'm thinking my last staff meeting, we got asked everyone, okay, so you're doing all this stuff, show me impact. So that was good. It was a good conversation for us all to have, as opposed to I'm doing this, it's better, explaining how much we're saving, yet does it show on the bottom line? Those are
And
the
does it show on the bottom line?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And there's hard questions to ask. I'm not going to share everything that I said in that meeting.
I completely
Yeah,
get it.
but
That's
yeah,
a real challenge everywhere, David.
it's a people issue. That's what was surprising to me. I'm trying not to get myself in trouble here, but it was a people issue. It was a type of person issue that, it's a way of thinking. So not everyone has grasped the
Yeah.
value side compared to the cool side. Like this is cool. Like
Impact,
everyone's using it all the time.
So,
Like
that was good. It
we
was
can't survive without it. It's a big part. And those who know how to train the model are going to do well.
Yes.
But there's the all the black eyes of people who don't know. They're not as concerned as they should be, and so the risk that's there is there, and the productivity isn't there unless you're really focused on it. And so that's a really important part of management structure and thinking is, okay, we got to be measuring actual results. So
I hear this value conversation everywhere I go. I think it is such an important piece because you get so trapped into is adoption happening? Now you're doing the training and you forget about the value. I speak at a lot of conferences, and one of the rooms, I would say most of the rooms, when I ask how many of you use AI, everybody raises the hand. And when I say how many of you use AI that provides you dollar figure value, that you can quantify the dollar, it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, everyone can't live without it. That's for sure at this point.
Yeah.
Once you're in that mode, there's things that adds to your life, right?
Exactly.
I mean, for me, when I drive, I write books now because I talk to the model,
Exactly.
So and training your model is really important, so that getting it to know your thinking, and so that's been really useful for me.
And where you traditionally feel that when you are in a industry like oil and gas or energy industry, generally they're, slow adoption.
They're slow fast is what they are. When someone proves something, you better be ready to produce really a lot, once they buy in. I think that's where we are on the production systems. We're getting single sourced a lot of the time right now, which, the people who do the work are like, this is a lot. Like we don't know how to meet the growth. But that's a good challenge. I'll take those challenges all day long. Yeah.
The first book I wrote, The AI Factor, I spoke about 4 quadrant, and I said the organization who are on the AI journey could fall into any of the 4 quadrant, which is fine. Any one is okay. The first one, I talk about the optimizer, and I see a lot of organization using AI as optimizer, cost cutting, efficiency. The second quadrant I talk about is innovator, people who are using AI to innovate. Third is the extender. I want to expand my market share, so I want to use AI for marketing and sales, and and then the last is the multiplier. I want to be the disruptor. I want to rethink my business model. Where do you see in your organization, and different functional areas could be in different groups, where do you see you're actively spending a lot of time in?
Good question. Probably a bit of all of it, of course, but because we blanketed, which puts you in that space. The stories are differing. I don't know. I can think of examples of all of them. So that's the problem is we've got a complex business. I mean, we're 18 core business units with a lot of acquisitions all the time. But getting people, I guess what's more important to us is when we do something in any four of those areas, getting it to spread is the challenge. How do you get adoption when you have pockets, people who do the things they do? So yeah, that's probably what we see more. I don't see enough probably development of new technology, particularly. Don't see enough of that yet. I think that's a stretch for people mentally. So they're not leaning as much into it, in our group anyway. I mean, really, it's the speed and lack of. It's not that we're cutting jobs; it's that we're increasing the work with less people. We're not hiring. And so that's where I'm seeing it in one of my teams. We're shortcutting a lot of process in marketing. We're finding a lot of things, particularly for concepting for people. Yeah, and I mean, we have people who are very anti-AI inside the crowd as
Yeah,
well.
everywhere. I hear
Not
people,
not anti sloppy use of AI. It's funny.
yeah,
In my nonprofit, someone said that the other day. I said, "Well, I'm using it for everything I'm writing." They said, "But you've trained your model."
yeah,
Like I have. I have. It's extremely well versed. And as well as if it ever writes like AI, I'm like, please stop that,
yeah,
and it's one of those things. If you know what you're looking for, you can feel it. It'll make simple mistakes, but if you train it, it grows up. So
exactly.
it's
It's
more.
like,
I mean, I think
yeah,
that the danger of the broad model is that it is across everywhere, and the question is, can you multiply it, or do
yeah,
people once again fall in love with the work they've done? And so that's an area that we're actually pulling together our disparate systems. What we learned was all of our people working in this space, they definitely were coming together to look like our biggest problem is we do the same thing in 2 places, although we'll probably do it in 10 places. And then people fall in love with whatever they've done. So it's no different to normal work. And so we found when we got people together, it was an interesting conversation to say, okay, so when you get together, do you share everything? Well, yeah, mostly everyone shares everything. So not everyone, no, not everyone shares everything. Okay. When you share everything, do people adopt? No. No, because they're not being told to adopt. They don't have to adopt each other's work. Even if they like it, there's a human component to not adopting. So that's caused us to say, well, then we do need to centralize the function, just because the dysfunction is going to kill us if we don't get this right.
right.
If we do the same thing we've seen before, where people just follow. Software is my worst area for people having fun, especially in a mechanical company.
Yeah,
Most people have a mechanical background or electrical maybe, and so they're sitting there going, you know, that my thing is special and that my application is special when they're not.
yeah,
And so they'll protect their own work, and so that's the new challenge for us is and we may change our mind. We're going to try that. We're going to try can we get everyone on the same page and working as a team and best practices being shared? Because we as an acquisition person, I mean, we buy on a good year, we'll buy a company a month. We're a very high speed kind of acquisition machine. We develop and we acquire, but that gives you software challenges all day long.
yeah,
And so that's always been our challenge is I mean, it gives us the chance to solve the problem before we go out to the market, which is great for us because we're dealing with, we can't say, let's all use one software. That's not happening across our businesses because we're allowing freedom when we buy companies. We're not telling them you must now fit into the model because we are smarter than you, which seems like a good idea for people who acquire companies, but it's actually, you kill the heart of the company and then you haven't got what you bought anymore. You don't have the people and you don't have the ingenuity. You just have more people that you have trained to be like you. So for us, we allow a lot of freedom, but at the same time, it's convincing people, yeah, but here's a place that you can go faster and go better. And so it's having that balance in leadership to understand that this is the win or lose for all of us.
yeah,
This isn't just an opinion, about your business. And I love that. I mean, it's rare. The success of the group that I have is it's a corporate group, which we naturally dislike corporate groups. Even I'm in corporate, I dislike myself. It's a weird. We all fit into small business, and that's how we came into this large corporation. So the challenge was met. We bought this company in Norway, and actually I saw it in a magazine that they were touting this system they had, which looked identical to our digital platform. So I'm like, okay, so I went to visit them and I'm listening and they're telling me the whole story. And I'm telling you it's identical. My worst nightmare is here's a very developed system for managing data across all of their applications. I was like, but I'm used to dealing with these situations. So I'm okay, this is great. What do you call it? And they said, well, it's Max. Well, it was our system. They just adopted it immediately. And that's when I learned that, oh, my team's doing all your work.
Yeah.
So they were like, we get free engineering from you and we can adopt it immediately. So that's our good areas are the ones they didn't have software already.
Right.
They adopt really fast. It's a good application. So that's where it gets really nice, where you start to go, okay, we're adding value, and we're going faster, which is what we want. You want people adopting and adding, and so yeah.
And the value can be different for different customers. So I think it's really understanding what the value means to your customer when you're actually delivering.
Where's the pain? I mean,
Yeah.
that's in that case, having customers say you're the first people to give us value. And they have spent a lot of money on a lot of big companies and big names. And so it's nice to know you're hitting the mark and you're doing it with a fraction of the size of the people
Yeah.
doing the work. And I think that is the future. I think if you can imagine that future, instead of saying, here's what could go wrong, you can say, okay, if that could go wrong, how do we design it out? How do we design the risk? How do we get better at this?
Right.
I drive a Tesla just because, and I have for multi years now, because it's just fascinating to watch what they're doing and doing wrong, which they sometimes do things wrong. It's embarrassing when they do, because it's usually means you were not paying attention. So,
Yeah.
but you learn that training the model is everything. Like if you want this car to do what you want it to do, you have to interact with it. You have to give feedback. You have to know that is your job. You are doing free development for Tesla.
Exactly.
So
But it's hopefully for the benefit of all,
yeah,
Training the model is very important.
right. Well, I mean, I started that journey when my father couldn't drive anymore, and I was like, I get it. And he kept driving, by the way, which was very dangerous. But it made me think, when I get to that age, I need to be able to get places in a car. I want that independence. So I was committed to the program. Like, yeah, we
I
need
agree.
this. We need that kind of freedom. So I think envisioning our future is the challenge for everybody. I think everyone is framing it based on our current, and you really have to shake that off to imagine, like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Like I run a drilling rig with robots on it, just industrial robots. We've been running it for about 5 years. The robots are getting adopted. But
Yeah.
the first thing I did was, we had normally on a drilling rig, you have a cabin up there on the floor to, for the safety of everybody and to be connected to the process. But if it goes wrong, that rig can blow up. So
That's true.
it's a really dangerous place to be. And so I took the cabin off. As soon as I saw the robots, like, were identically doing the same thing every time, they didn't need watching. Nothing needed watching. So cameras could do it. So we finally could remove the cabin. But I have very few adopters of that idea. You would think it'd be the first thing they'd do. But in fact, everyone thought I was crazy until they stood there and saw what a giant HD screen with great cameras could do for your visibility. Like, it's better.
Yeah.
It's a better environment. So I think that's a general blocker for people, is imagining a future. So I'm looking at it and going, well, with these robots now, why we don't really need the floor at all, because it's there to facilitate humans. And so there's things that people don't think of, that are where we're going to go, and I don't know there's enough people who can jump over the normal iterative thinking that goes on.
Yeah. You spoke about earlier, just when you were talking about that you don't buy technology, you build it. I would say that it should probably make more CTO nervous. It's because it's
It's a different
completely
job.
different cost structure, completely different risk factor, right?
Yeah, designing it. I mean, I laughed because my team did a CRM and then a quote system, like, on top of all the other things they
Yeah.
do. Instead of buying, it was, and someone else in the IT world was like, but we're doing this with I won't say the brand names, with a large company. And I said, well, yeah, but we got asked to do it in 2 months. oh no, it's a 2 year process. I'm like, yeah, because they bring in consultants and they do all this change management. We just did it. It was too easy to do. So I think that's the kind of thing, and people are trapped in this mode of high cost, and it should be going the opposite direction. And anytime you can break it up, for me, I run with a venture group that we don't do venture, we don't do startups, but in AI, it's different. And companies are different, barriers are different, speed is different. So we set up this thing where they take around 1 to 200 companies and they kind of boil them down to something that fits into our problem statements. And then we get down to usually about 20 companies, and then they get to meet with our people. And our people will tell them, this is a terrible idea, it's a good idea. And then it usually gets down to 1 or 2 companies, and then we will give them their pilots. And so what we're doing is shrinking 4 years out of the process of startups and bringing them into field applications very quickly. And suddenly they're in the market and they're growing. And so that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to disrupt big companies who go slow and are busy bringing in their change managers when you just have to change. You're going to have to adapt. You're not going to get to spend a lot of money on PowerPoints to talk to people. You're going to have to find people who can adapt. And that's what we're doing, is we're trying to find ways to make things. So that's adding on top of what we're doing, someone from the outside saying, okay, I want to encourage these companies who have ideas that will disrupt the big companies. Similar to my description of ourselves, we were building large packages. Then we never would let our companies just get comfortable with your being packaged in. They still had to compete on a 1-by-1 basis.
Yeah.
Because if they got used to it, then they're no longer competitive in the market. And so they had to be able to do for that breakup. And it's the same thing is happening in the digital world. Is we're learning ways, to make things work together where previously you couldn't integrate. You couldn't, you need to try and get everyone into a similar language rather than saying, can I just have a translator? If I build a good translator, can I translate most code into the same language? Yeah, you probably could. So you start thinking differently about how do we go faster? How do we get things to work faster? And as long as you're used to being a large corporation, you're going to be in trouble. You do have to think like a smaller, more agile way without doing damage. It's damage control that causes everyone to go slow. But we get to work with everybody. We're not just oil and gas. So we work with NASA and we work with SpaceX. It's the same people, just a different process, just going faster with a bit more risk tolerance,
I want to kind of shift the gear to governance, the risk for having these models becoming autonomous. There's a lot of fear of, responsible AI, ethical AI, governance risk, privacy, security, which is a huge risk. How are you dealing with that?
Well, it's a challenge. I mean, it is something we're looking at all the time. Is we're working on, what can we do to protect and to cover, and it's already a challenge before you have these models, So
yeah,
I think it is the babysitting part of the job, is that you're not just letting it run free on the Sheridan scale. You're not going to full autonomy. You're just on a journey of monitoring where you kind of go, okay, what's the right balance of human to machine? Until we know, until we know that we know that we know, which is
exactly.
You don't just run to the end of the story and then go, oh, oops,
Yeah.
something bad happened. You have to manage it in a scale and in a way that it's monitoring, and teaching AI to watch AI is a whole trick,
Right.
It's an interesting, dissimilar system challenge, to go, okay, how do you get it to watch itself, and then you're still watching that system. So there's no free journey here where suddenly you turn a switch and everything's good. There's a journey that costs and takes time, and but there are things you can do, and so you just choose your risk, you choose your application. Where can we do it? Where shouldn't we do it? Where should we take our time? Do your learning where there's less risk is usually the best answer.
You talk about your team was running machine learning on rig data decade before anyone else was working on Gen AI. So when the large language model came up, what changed in 2023 when suddenly ChatGPT, the whole
Oh,
OpenAI era started. What changed for you within your organization because you were using machine learning, and
mm.
what stayed the same?
Um, the excitement level went through the roof for the guys who did the work, which was interesting. I was curious because I asked them, I said, "Are you not just coding yourself out of a job here?" And they said, "Yeah," with a happy face. Yeah, we are. Like
That's
they were
good.
more excited about the capacity of the system than they were the long term. And the way it's worked is they just haven't hired a lot more people. But because I remember that every time we've done firsts, people get excited about being the one who knows how to do
Yeah.
this. And so yeah, that's been interesting. But we went faster. I mean, I didn't even know, like I didn't know how much faster. And I was getting my reports of the work we are doing. And it took me a while to go, wait, we're adding capacity, but you're not adding capacity. I think that was the most interesting thing was that we didn't cut the jobs, but we did quadruple the work without adding capacity. So that was pretty interesting. So yeah, I think I don't know that. I mean, I'm using my best case, which isn't fair because it's not all that way. We have plenty of stumbling things that aren't working, things that. But that's the beauty of kind of throwing the seeds across the field. You've got to work out, where's the good ground. Everyone I know who's in large corporations of doing the software work has said that's such a terrible idea. They're all about control, but I think in this phase you have to be willing to just try things and see
Yeah.
what works, And that's where we're at now because we thought we'd do it. We didn't want to do more than a year with a single company because we believe their value is going to destroy over time here. So we're trying to limit our commitments because there'll be others who come up. We're staying out of the software business as best we can, just because we know it's not a place to make revenue. We had a nice. Probably shouldn't describe the technology, but we had a technology that was a really good breakthrough, and I recommended that we don't charge for it. And it was an industrial business, and they were like, "What? No, we have to." They want to see the money fast. And I'm like, yeah, but if you do it for free, it'll get into every system there is in industrial manufacturing and you'll be in. You don't have to go through an IT department because they're going to use it because it's free. And then you have the data, and then you're the powerful one. And so I couldn't get them there. But that is the kind of thinking you have to have is free is the answer.
Yeah.
Why do I do it for free? Especially if, I mean, we're a maker of things. So it keeps us in a good place where going free, I think it terrifies our customers or sometimes our competitors, and their fear that as the top thing is that we don't want that money. We're not dreaming to be the giant software company. We're dreaming to eliminate the software company, and
Yeah.
so that is terrifying to people because they've been betting for decades on the software is the answer.
What is your prediction of where the world is going, enterprises are going, workforce, agents, how is the organization going to evolve in next, I would say 3 to 5 years, not even 10 to 15?
Excuse me. I don't know. I really don't. I think as we wander into this journey, like it continues to surprise me. So
That's true.
I mean, I could guess, but I don't think it's valuable. I mean, all I know is that we continue to try and unearth biggest costs we have in our systems. And they're the ones that there's things I need solved that aren't being solved yet. I was on a panel with, once again, I won't mention the company's name, but one of them, an ERP supplier, let's say that, and they got up and showed an AI car that they developed. And then he sat down and we'd all done our little presentations. And my first question was, I see you didn't show us your AI ERP system, did you? You showed us a car that we don't need, that is going to get boring and continue to design slowly and out of the design soup of AI. But what's more interesting to me is when are you going to destroy your ERP business? Because it should destroy itself. It
Yeah.
should stop being so costly and so difficult, and it should work better, and it shouldn't need humans to train humans anymore to employ it. And it kills me. That stuff kills our business. It's really hard. It's really painful, and they make money off of our off of the dysfunction it creates. And I would love to see that. I would love to see the
Yeah.
big things where, let's get the system smart enough that they erode the cost out of them. So where's your big cost is always the question.
Yeah.
We ran a renewables group, and I was just all R&D, and I said, look, just take any renewable, I don't care what it is, cut the cost in half. Find the cost being, cut it in half. And then we'll talk. If it's not cut in half, I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's the same with this, like where's our cost being? Can we cut it? Can we imagine it not being there?
I have to say we are living in the world where it's all about opportunities. With AI, with tools like AI, it's our responsibility to find the right opportunity to fix the problems. And are you fixing the right problem? I
Yeah,
love what you said. Go disrupt, your
yeah,
own system and
yeah.
figure
You
out
have
what
to put yourself out of business. Yeah, yeah.
and that's what shows that you're on the path of success. I think if
Hope so.
you if you sit on the sideline and you just watch, you're not gonna evolve. So
Yeah,
really,
I loved our. I mean, we trained everyone, but I loved our leadership training. I clearly was using AI more than everyone else because I was very bored. And I was making goofy things, pictures, and sending them to everyone. Like our CEO's like, "Are you working?" I'm like, "I'm running 7 models right now, but I don't. It doesn't work." So I thought I'd just do. I made a joke, Forbes cover for our CFO, but something stupid in the middle of all this serious work because that is AI.
right.
I was running 7 models and also made a goofy picture. It was people couldn't cope. They were just like, wait, we're trying to learn. I'm like, I know, but it's really hard for me that they're explaining where AI came from, like for the first hour.
Yeah.
You know, like I just they gave us the new toy, so I started playing with it.
Well, David, I want to thank you so much for your time because I think these are the conversations that makes our LinkedIn audience think, reflect, and really think about where they are going and what their direction is. I think as individuals, we all are on the path of learning, lifelong learning now.
Mm.
But it's really about what are we doing internally in our organization, as individual, as teams, as organization. With that, thank you, David, for coming today and talking to us. This is a wrap.
Thanks.
I'm Asha Saxena. See you next time. World Leaders in Data and AI, where leaders continue to grow, transform, and lead through closed-door peer-to-peer conversation you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much. And thank you, David, again.
Thanks, Asha.